Reporters Without Borders, RSF, and Radio Liberty sues Trump administration over funding cuts. Another topic: US scales down efforts in countering Russian sabotage. Reuters reports on that. Good afternoon, if it's good. My name is Henry Keane and we are UATV English, in English-speaking Ukrainian state media in constant persuasion to deliver hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. RSF and Radio Liberty takes Trump's administration to court. Radio Liberty sued the United States Agency for Global Media, which is USGM, on March 18th over the termination of grant funding, arguing that the step violates federal laws and the Constitution. The congressionally authorized grant funding for RFE-RL has been terminated after US President Donald Trump ordered USAGM, a government agency overseeing that, Radio Free Asia, Radio Liberty and Voice of America, by the way, to be dismantled. Radio Liberty was founded early in the Cold War to counter Soviet propaganda in Eastern Bloc countries. It has since continued providing coverage of Ukraine, Russia, Belarus and countries in Central Asia, the Balkans, the Caucasus and elsewhere in the world. The outlet argues that the Trump administration's decision violates the Constitution as the funding was approved previously by Congress.
This is not the time to cede terrain to the propaganda and censorship of America's adversaries. We believe the law is on our side and that the celebration of our demise by despots around the world is premature. RFS Radio Liberty President and CEO Stephen Capus.
Well, I wonder if Trump is included in that despot list, as he's cracked down against RFE-RL and Voice of America, which has been celebrated by Russian propagandists, of course, coincides with his outreach to Moscow as he seeks to broker a peace deal, at least what he calls a peace deal, in Ukraine. US courts have previously sought to stall some of the executive's most radical cuts, which were presented as an effort to slash waste, including the gutting of the US Agency for International Development, USAID. Trump's allies have publicly questioned the court's jurisdiction over the executive branch decisions, raising concerns about a looming constitutional crisis even. As the future of United States legal battles remains uncertain, European countries actually launched discussions on stepping in and taking over the outlet's funding needs. Do we see value in such an organization broadcasting to countries like Russia, Belarus, Iran and many others? And if we see such value, what are we willing to do to keep such a service in our favor? End of quote, by Czech Foreign Minister Jan Lipavsky. RFE-RL's headquarters are located in Prague. Martin Dvorak, Czech European Affairs Minister, said that the Czech initiative to fund the agency has already received backing from 10 countries. Some United States national security agencies have suspended cooperation with international partners in countering Russian sabotage and cyber operations. Reuters reports on that on March 19th, citing undisclosed official sources. This interesting, to put it mildly, news comes amid the Trump administration's efforts to restore ties with Russia while seeking to broker a swift peace deal in Ukraine. Whatever that means for Ukraine, but why should he care, right? He's Donald Trump. And under former US President Joe Biden, the National Security Council coordinated the effort of at least 7 security agencies who worked with European partners to disrupt Russia's escalating hybrid activities across the European continent and in the world. Now things have changed for the better for Russian dictator in the Kremlin and his American ally in the White House. US President Donald Trump's team was briefed by the Biden administration on Russian disruptive activities during a transaction period. But since Trump took office in January 20th, the National Security Council has ceased coordinating these efforts, while expected meetings with European partners just did not happen. Reuters writes about it. The news agency notes also that it remains unclear whether this was a direct decision by the Trump administration or individual initiative of relevant agencies. The news follows earlier reporting claiming the US TV show host and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a halt to all cyber operations against Russia. However, the Pentagon later denied the claim. The US has also reportedly cut support for a group tracking Ukrainian children abducted by Russia, moved to withdraw from a body investigating the Russian leadership for crimes in Ukraine, and froze US aid funding, crucial for various humanitarian, economic and social projects all around the world and in the country. Washington has also temporarily paused the military and intelligence support for Ukraine earlier this month to push it to the negotiating table. The US has threatened additional sanctions against Russia unless it agrees to ceasefire, but has yet to take the step, putting considerably greater pressure on Ukraine. Trump's outreach to Moscow has caused concerns, to put it mildly, again in Europe and Kyiv, that Washington might cut a peace deal unfavorable to the US allies. On March 18th, Trump held a phone call with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin to discuss a pause on strikes against both Ukrainian and Russian energy facilities, as well as the prospects of US-Russian economic cooperation. But I live here in Ukraine, and I can assure you, my dear people, that strikes continue, just as beautiful White House and Kremlin romantic affair is onwards. Well, that was it for tonight. My name is Enrique, and we are UATV English, an English-speaking Ukrainian state media in constant persuasion to deliver hard truth in easy terms for you, for the whole free world, directly from Ukraine. Please, in turn, like, share, and comment. Your voice matters. We need it, as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be heard globally. Stay safe and see you very soon. Goodbye.